Good morning, Dolphins fans. Welcome to another episode of On the FinSide here with Kat and Paul. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Spreaker, iTunes, YouTube, iHeartRadio, and Spotify. I'm Brian Cat, NFL on Twitter. Paul is fanatic_pick. Just a warning to everybody, I'm not in my usual studio here today, so if there's any connection issues, we apologize for that. That's kind of the risk that comes with doing a live show. But the Dolphins head into New York this upcoming Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern time, very important time of the year. Dolphins are currently 7-point favorites against the Jets. Not a big surprise there. On the injury front, the main news is, Tua questionable for this week with a thumb injury. At the present time, Paul and I expect him to play. Outside chance that he doesn't. And it's really got to be a bounce back game here for Tua. Savon Ahmed and Solomon Kinley at running back and right guard should miss this game. Myles Gaskin will monitor that over the next 24 hours. We have a pretty good feeling that he's going to be activated and play here in this Jets game, but we'll see. On the Jets front, they're getting Sam Darnold at quarterback back for this. He's been on a hiatus here for almost 2 months now, but they'll probably be without both right tackles, Chuma Edoga and George Fant. So they're going to have Connor McDermott, a third-string right tackle, going up against Emmanuel Ogbah in this. But, Paul, before we even dive into the game, I'm going to throw it to you on how you feel 3-4 days later here about Tua being benched here against the Broncos, as if nobody's talked about that all week.
Honestly, I'm still in the same spot I was, and even more so after being on the pressers with Tua this week, seeing how he responded. I'm going to tell you, as a coach, and I know it's not the same level, you know your players and what they're capable of, if you're a decent coach, more than anybody out there, and what they respond to. And for me, Flores is a guy that every single one of these players seems to love to death and wants to play for and would run through a brick wall for. I have to take that as he knows his player. And I hate to say this, we're in the middle of a playoff push. We are. We're in the middle of a push for the division. And if Flores leaves Tua out there just for his sole, sink or swim development, that's a problem, because his whole message is no one is above the team, himself and everybody else included. And the second you start making it all about one player and not the team, you bastardize and core your entire message. And I don't care who it is. You're playing like ass. You need to come out. Right? They have Ryan Fitzpatrick. They don't have some schmuck off the street sitting there. They've got a guy that can provide a spark when needed. And you know what? I saw the video of Tua and Fitzpatrick talking on the sideline, and Tua was still in it, figuring out what he saw and, using what Fitzpatrick was doing out there to teach himself what to do in those situations. So I'm fine with it. I'm absolutely fine with it. I think it was the right move.
I can understand what you're saying as far as the creating a culture where the best player plays. I mean, it's hard to disagree with that portion of it. 4 or 5 days later, I'm still not happy about it. And here's a very simple reason for it, is that the Dolphins have been 3-0 with Tua. He has a quarterback rating of over 100. The first time that he struggles, you pull him from the lineup. I don't agree with that. And especially when you consider that, and this is from my perspective, sitting here as a fan, I would rather the Dolphins go 3-1 in that game. You don't pull Tua. You don't have those questions from week to week. And then you go against the Jets and the Bengals, 2 games you should win anyway. Now you're talking about a 5-1 Tua, an 8-4 Dolphins team, and you don't have to discuss any of that. So I'm not being negative. I'm being consistent with what I've always said. When Tua gets into the lineup, you don't take him out. I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah, I can understand that perspective. I really can. It's just, for me, it's, seeing how Tua's responded this week, the only thing that he seems bothered by are the questions from the media over and over again about it. And
you bet.
Other than that, he seems fine. He basically has said, he's like, it's about the team. It is about the team. And you know what that
And
means? That tells me he's digesting the right message from this and saying, I've got to play better. I've got to make quicker decisions. I've got to do these things. It sounds like this may be the thing that I still will stick to. 2 years from now, we may see Tua pointing back at this game saying that it was the biggest boost for him in his rookie year, the fact that he got yanked after getting 3/4 of nothingness before getting yanked for Fitzpatrick in the closing minutes.
yeah, there are two things that I'll say to wrap that up is one thing that makes a difference is that Tua and Fitzpatrick have a have a really good relationship. So that helps, number one. Number two, this is different from 2014. I don't know if you remember week 4 against the Raiders, where Joe Philbin was refusing to announce Tannehill as a starter for that game when they had Matt Moore on the bench. Tannehill and Matt Moore did not have that same relationship, and Matt Moore was not nearly as good of a player right now as Fitzpatrick is. So, yeah, I can understand that, and I do hope Tua plays in this game, because if he doesn't, and I think he will, and Fitzpatrick goes in there, he's probably going to do well, and then you may have a bigger problem on your hands. But, Paul, I'll switch to – first of all, you got a stupid grin on your face.
I got to read you one comment. I got to read you one comment from the chat. Shake, who is here every episode, said, "I'm used to Cat not being happy," with a bunch of laughing emojis.
I tend to. Okay, never mind. He's right. So I'm usually look on the pessimistic side of things. Unfortunately, that's why we balance each other good on here.
Oh yeah.
So anyway, getting to our next one, it's about to get a little more pessimistic for my end too.
Oh boy,
Paul, you put out a poll this past week with a very simple question: with what you know now after the Broncos lost, do you see the Dolphins making the playoffs? It's a very straightforward question. What would I know? You know the Twitter world better than I do too. I don't know if you can respond to your own poll. If you could or you did, what was your answer to that question?
Well, I can't, but my answer would have been yes, especially. And this is going to sound odd, but given the devastating news out of Ravens camp about, basically their whole team getting COVID, and the fact that they're delaying that game, and we're looking at games starting to get delayed again, and based on a vote that happened a few weeks ago about expanding the team's playoff if they hit COVID issues. Half the NFL is probably going to be in the playoffs this year, which is weird as hell. And do I see Miami finishing in the top half of the NFL, given their schedule coming up, given the fact that the Ravens were reeling before they lost everybody in the world to COVID and are starting RG3 and, I think your college roommate at running back with the kid that flunked out of college behind him. It's just, that is a team that is devastated right now. They're in the thick of it. They're probably out. Buffalo is a team that seems to be feast or famine, and I see falling apart down the stretch. So Miami could still end up with a division. But do I see them finishing with a winning record this year? Yes. And does that put them in the top half of the NFL? Yes. So by that vein, they're almost likely to make the playoffs by default unless they have a colossal collapse and play like they did against Denver the rest of the way.
I agree with two of the three things you said. Do I think the Dolphins are one of the top 16 teams in the entire NFL? The answer is yes. Do I think that they will have a winning record? The answer is yes. Do I think they will make the playoffs? No, I don't think they will. And here's why. And I'm not saying it's impossible, but this is just how I look at it here. I think they're going to win the next 2 games. I think they're going to lose to the Chiefs. Then you've got the 2 games there in week 15 and 16 against the Patriots and the Raiders. I see them splitting those games. Now you're at 9-6 heading into Buffalo in the final week. And I've got to give the edge to the Bills on that. So that means 9-7, but 10-6 to me becomes a coin flip whether or not you make the playoffs with 7 teams. Typically, and with 7 teams making the playoffs, 10 wins, yes, it would be the Dolphins would get in that scenario, but there's a difference this year. You look at the teams that were battling, the Colts, the Browns, the Titans, the Ravens, I'm probably forgetting one in there. I looked at this, and they were a combined 11-2 against the NFC this year. And that's why you see the imbalance and why the AFC is going to have so many more wins. And you look at just the Ravens. I agree with you on the Ravens. If they lose to the Steelers this week on Tuesday, which I think they will, they'll be 6-5. But you look at the remaining 5 games. They play the Cowboys at home, at Cleveland, then the Jaguars, Giants, and Bengals. So I see a 10 or 11 win team there. The Browns, I think the Dolphins are far better than the Browns. I can't believe they're 7-3, but they're going to go 8-3 this week against the Jaguars. They still have the Jets and Giants on their schedule. That's 10 wins. So it's kind of a rough situation there. I think in a normal year, 9-7 with 7 playoff teams gets you in, and 10 definitely does. I'm not quite sure this year.
Yeah, and I think Miami does finish with at least 10 wins, and I am with you a little bit on that. But I also see several of these games that I think a few of these teams could drop. I hate to say it, if RG3 goes out, he's probably going on IR after this week. It's given their issues anyway. You give RG3 a healthy lineup to play with, and he's probably going on IR after a single game. And you give him a devastated lineup by COVID and a bunch of throw-ins, he's probably going on IR by halftime. And then you're starting, I don't know, Tommy Two-Tone or whatever his name is from the practice squad.
Tommy McSorley.
But like, I just...
He's their practice squad guy. He's on the roster. They drafted him the 6th round out of Penn State. They basically drafted him.
Their third string is on the COVID list too. It's their practice squad guy that's going to be backing up RG3.
I don't even know who that is.
That is my point. If it's so the Ravens very easily could drop some of those games that they would normally win with a healthy roster, and they're struggling to win those games this year with a healthy roster. So you look at that.
Yeah, I look at I look at the Ravens. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, it's and you look at what you're saying about those other teams. There's other teams, podcasts and YouTube videos right now, and beat writers and you name it, that are looking at the Dolphins, saying the same goddamn things about, why it's going to be a struggle for their team to make the playoffs. So yeah, I'm with you. It's a coin flip, whether or not it's the Dolphins. But again, the Dolphins are 1 game back in the division, so I'm still staring at Week 17 until it mathematically tells me otherwise. And the only ones mathematically eliminated right now are Adam Gase and the Jets. So
that's right. And really too, when you look at Joe Burrow going down for the year, you better win these next 2 games to get to 8-4. And I think after that, I mean, you've got to think that happens, or else everything else we're talking about is pretty much moot. You're 8-4. You're going to have a playoff spot heading into the remaining 4 games of the year. So looking at the Jets game here, Sam Darnold is going to start this game over Joe Flacco. I've been back and forth about who I, when it was Darnold was questionable throughout the week, it was announced officially yesterday he would start barring any setback. I was back and forth about whether I wanted Flacco or whether I wanted Sam Darnold starting this game. I've got a couple of thoughts on that, but I'm curious what yours were first.
Is the quarterback ruiner still the head coach?
That's right.
I'm good. I don't care.
Okay. So, sounds good. I'm kind of that same way. I will say too, though, that Joe Flacco over the last 2 weeks has given the Jets the best quarterback play they've had all year. Last 2 weeks, he's been 33 for 55, 467 yards, 5 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. They scored 27 points against the Patriots and lost by 3, 26 to the Chargers and lost by 8 with a chance to win at the end. So I was starting to think maybe the Jets are capable of putting together 20 or 25 points instead of the 0 they put up against the Dolphins. But on the other hand, Sam Darnold returns now, and it's going to be an interesting scenario with him the end of the year, because if the Jets win 1 or 2 games in this season, they're likely not going to be able to get Trevor Lawrence. So Sam Darnold is literally playing for his own life here with the Jets moving forward. So, but either way, the Dolphins should have significant matchup advantages here on defense.
Yeah, and Kat, give me a second because I want to dig up this stat here. I dug up this week, or actually two stats I dug up this week.
Yeah, go ahead and take your time here. I'm going to go through just a few of the
Well,
remaining games here on Sunday.
I've actually got them in front of me, and I just want to go back to the Tua thing real quick here. Home Starmy or Home State Army, or I'm not sure. Sorry, it's a username. Whatever. You said if Tua plays like garbage against the Jets, does he start after that? I'm going to say yes, and I'm pretty sure Kat will too. And I want to give you two stats here. All right. One quarterback here, his third game of his career, he lost 17-7, went 12 for 22 for 150 yards, one touchdown, one interception. That was Dan Marino's third start of his career. The second quarterback, 19-13 loss to go to 0-4, three interceptions, took 4 sacks. Yes, he threw for 300 yards, and it's a knee-jerk comparison. But again, that was Peyton Manning's fourth game of his career. Quarterbacks can take time to develop. And, Tua's a rookie who was in his fourth start last week. He's going to have bumps and things like that. And a bad game does not mean he's not the guy. I have never once, even when I wanted Burrow over Tua, said that Tua could not be the guy. My only concern with Tua, and he's been answering that overall, was a durability question. And so he's going to have his bumps. He's going to have his struggles. They've got a spark there that they can occasionally throw in if they have to. And Tua's shown that he can handle it when that happens. I'm expecting Tua to come out and light the world on fire this week. Not because it's the Jets, but because he's not a guy you rattle. He doesn't get rattled. And he may have a bad game, and even if it's against the goddamn Jets, you don't yank the guy just because he had a bad game against the goddamn Jets.
Yeah, and that's the reason I didn't want to yank him against the Broncos either, because I thought that you keep Tua in there and you let him continue to battle on there, and you've got to let him have those experiences. He is a rookie quarterback. We forget about that a lot. And the other part of it too, where I think it's leading to the angst is, Joe Burrow and Justin Herbert have played so well, and those are the other two quarterbacks drafted there in the top 6 picks. But that's not a good reason to say that we should be doing this or doing that with Tua. And also, too, when you look at the Chargers, yes, Herbert's been playing great, but he also has Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Hunter Henry to throw to. And the Bengals have had Joe Mixon. I know he's just got hurt, but Joe Mixon, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, A.J. Green. He's got some weapons, too. The Dolphins need to keep adding to those weapons around Tua, and first he needs to get comfortable playing the quarterback position.
And on top of that, the Chargers and the Bengals, for one, Burrow had the starter reps right from the get-go, and for two, both teams opened up the offense completely right off the rip. Gailey is easing Tua into this offense, and you know what? I like that fact, especially looking back at the Chargers game. They just let Justin Herbert rip out in San Diego. And yeah, he's completing deep balls at an alarming rate. But you know what? When Miami took away the goddamn deep ball and made the Chargers afraid to throw it, guess what? He looked like the most pedestrian ass out there. So, they're slowly opening the playbook, but I think by the end of the year, we're going to see what the playbook truly is going to look like with Tua at the helm.
Yeah, I think you'll see a lot of that, and then you'll continue to see that being built upon as the Dolphins add more and more weapons, because they're going to have a new running back next year. I think they'll have another number 2 receiver. They may have another offensive lineman or two. As they keep building this. Speaking of the offensive line, wow, do they need to rebound this week? And it's a good team to rebound against, because that was pitiful last week against the Broncos. I mean, when we did our show on Sunday night, I went and watched the All-22 a couple days later when it was posted. I didn't realize how bad it was. I almost had to turn it off. First 2 plays of the game, Austin Jackson absolutely whiffs on Bradley Chubb, and Tua's got to run out of the pocket. The next play is a run play. Austin Jackson completely whiffs, and it's only a 1-yard run. Now, instead of maybe Jakeem Grant catching a deep touchdown, or second play, if you hit that block, you probably have a 15-yard gain. Those 2 plays are ruined. And Austin Jackson, hey, he's just turned 21 years old. Overall, he has played way better than I thought when he's been healthy. But They've got to bring it this week. I mean, because overall, even though they've overachieved this year, last week was an example of what I thought the Dolphins' offensive line could be this year with 5 new starters and a young offensive line.
Well, it's funny how really the downturn of the offensive line, and I love this player when I say it, but again, it's not about that. The offensive line kind of took an upturn when Kinley was really truly healthy, and they took a downturn when Kinley wasn't, and they started having to piecemeal some stuff. I can't ignore that fact. I mean, they looked like a cohesive unit with him out there, and once they, because Austin Jackson goes out, they didn't skip a beat putting Jesse at left tackle. Kinley goes out, they skip a hell of a lot of beats with Jackson at left tackle and Kinley or Jesse Davis at guard. That tells me something right there, because again, at the end of the day, you're going to have your ups and downs, but you're still playing NFL caliber players week in and week out, and Kinley being out seems to have really impacted the rest of the line.
I think that has something to do with it, and I also think that Austin Jackson hadn't faced a pass rusher this year, unless I'm forgetting somebody that's as talented as Bradley Chubb. And I think that was kind of his welcome to the NFL type of moment. I mean, Chubb hasn't, I mean, he had 12, he was former, 7th overall pick, 12.5 sacks a couple years ago. He's rounded back into form after being hurt last year. He tore up Austin Jackson. Now, the good thing is I don't see the Jets, knock on wood, having a pass rusher that can do what Bradley Chubb did. I mean, Quinnen Williams is leading their team with 3.5 sacks. He's played better this year, but off the edge, you've got Terrell Basham, you've got Jordan Jenkins, who did get to the quarterback last week, but I don't see that same thing off the edge. So this is the week for the Dolphins offensive line to rebound.
It is, and I want to go over to the other side of the ball here too. I mean,
we'll get to that.
I mean, one thing I will say is I'll be intrigued to see if Austin Jackson steps up this week, because we got to remember too, he's just back from an injury as a rookie. So maybe that played in, maybe it didn't. I don't know. This week will be very telling on that front. Now you want to talk about bad, devastated offensive lines. You already pointed out the Jets are on their 3rd string right tackle. I have a bone to pick, and everybody that's listened to our show since our draft previews this year knows that I love Mekhi Becton. I wanted him in Miami, you name it. I can't believe that Mekhi Becton is listed on a Pro Bowl ballot right now, let alone leading the position for the AFC. That is the biggest goddamn joke I've ever seen in my life. He has been playing hurt and bad and brave as all hell, but you don't go to the Pro Bowl based on bravery. He's been playing with one arm most of the year because Gase is too goddamn dumb, and we know this as Dolphin fans, to put a player's health above playing a meaningless game. Meaningless game for these guys. They're eliminated from playoff contention. They need a quarterback, or maybe, or they need 1,000 different things. They need a coach, and yet they're taking their possible future All-Pro left tackle, not a Pro Bowler this year left tackle, and trotting his ass out on the field to ruin his career. And I hate to see the possibility that his career may end up going the way of Jamie Nails, being cut short due to injury because he was pushed out there when he shouldn't be. And I expect Miami to take advantage of that completely. I expect Andrew Van Ginkel to smoke the one-armed man this week.
You probably know more about Becton's injury than I do. I know he played last week and he played well given the injury. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I think he missed 3 or 4 games. The Pro Bowl is a joke anyway. I mean, let's be honest.
Well, it's them playing Madden this year.
Yeah, I don't understand why. I remember when Rashad Jones made the Pro Bowl a couple of years ago. I'm like, what? Why? Like it didn't make any sense. And there have been a lot of guys who haven't made the Pro Bowl for the Dolphins over the years too. That's like I can't believe that. So. Yeah, the whole thing's a joke anyway. Mekhi Becton did play well last week, and he goes up against Shaq Lawson. Andrew Van Ginkel, we'll see if he rushes over him, but really Connor McDermott at right tackle, backup right tackle. You've got Emmanuel Ogbah there with 8 sacks on the year. Maybe he gets to double digits this week, and I think that's what's really going to hurt the Jets is number one. I mean, everything should hurt the Jets this week. The Dolphins, cannot lose this football game. But coming off the edge, you've got Emmanuel Ogbah, and so you could probably get some pressure with the front four, especially with Christian Wilkins returning. But if you want to get unpredictable and start sending the house, you pretty much know what the Jets are going to do every play. They line up in 11 personnel over 75% of the time. You know what they're going to do on a week-to-week basis. We saw it in Miami. They want to pound the ball into the slot. We saw it with Denver, where they come out with 3 wide receivers every play. So no excuse for the Dolphins defensively to not take advantage of how predictable they are. And that's exactly what I expect to happen. I expect Josh Boyer to call a great game here on defense.
Yeah, no, I really want to see the drunken defense against Gase's offense and just expose Gase for the pretender that he is. And I think if Miami goes with that drunken amoeba psycho defense early, you're going to see the Jets go to – the Jets are bad when Gase is standing there calling the plays. The Jets, and I know he supposedly kind of passed it off, but we all know Gase. He's leaning over saying, call this. The Jets are worse when Gase is over on the bench, drawing on his clipboard, playing tic-tac-toe against himself or whatever the hell he's doing for 20, 30 minutes at a clip. And, you can see there's just a 15-yard radius around him of vacancy. The Jets are at their worst at that point, and they should be. It's when you're sitting there and the guy that's supposed to be leading the charge is sitting on the bench, not even watching the freaking game up on the screen. That's a problem. That's Henry Winkler in The Waterboy bad before he gets Bobby Boucher. And if you can send him to that point, you won. Sam Darnold is lost. You are going to start destroying him, and the secondary is going to feast.
Yeah, it should be a game the Dolphins win this week. And the linebackers also need to rebound because when I watched the All-22, they were bad as well. I mean, Kyle Van Noy shouldn't have been playing in that game with his hip. He couldn't move. Hopefully that's better this week because otherwise he's a liability when he's out there in the field. And he's been a great pickup. Landon Roberts is better when he's playing downhill. Otherwise, when he's out in space, it's not a good situation. We saw that last week when Melvin Gordon and Phillip Lindsay ran for 166 yards and 2 touchdowns. The difference this week is the Jets don't have the personnel or don't have the running game to be able to get out to the perimeter on those zone runs. So knock on wood, you're not going to see 166 yards rushing from the Jets this week. You go up against reliable Frank Gore. They're not going to be able to exploit those matchups. So, and also in addition to that, on the run defense, Raekwon Davis, second week in a row, say what you want about PFF, but they graded him as the best defensive player in the NFL for the week, 2 weeks in a row. And he played 48 snaps last week too. He's really becoming a problem on the inside. And with him and Sealer on the inside and Frank Gore, where he's running every play, I don't see the Jets running game being able to get off the ground.
No, I mean, I don't either. And part of that is the guy that scared me the most that the Jets had on their roster was LaMichael Perrine. And he went on IR this week. Frank Gore doesn't scare me. I'm good with it. I think Miami's defense really has an uptick week this week. I don't see a team that's going to have the smarts to stop throwing if Miami starts taking it away. I think knowing Gase, that's the problem. And I don't care if Logains is calling the plays or not. Logains is a Gase puppet as an assistant coach. Gase treats his entire organization as his puppet. And he's going to do a screwed up puppet show just to show you that he's the best that there is. He's got
Dowell Log. I don't even know. I didn't even bother to figure out how to pronounce his name when he was here in Miami.
No,
I don't know if it's Logains, Rogains. I don't know. I don't care. But he's an example that production doesn't matter. Familiarity does.
Yeah. Dowell Lego my ego.
Yeah. So we'll go with that. That's why you keep saying it. Yeah. Why else would you bring Demaryius Thomas back last year when he can't play anymore? Why would you bring Frank Gore in instead of actually running anybody at running back who's not 37 years old? I love Frank Gore. I hate him now. He's with the Jets, but what's the point? It doesn't make any sense. So
it's not like Le'Veon Bell's going to walk into that building at any point. Oh, shoot.
Yeah, it's almost like they need a Le'Veon Bell type, who's in their 20s. So,
How would you get one
but
of those?
he couldn't make it work with him. Couldn't make it work with Jamal Adams. Couldn't make it work with Jarvis Landry here in Miami. I mean, basically anybody with talent doesn't want to play with them, and so that's we've only got a few weeks left of Adam Gase and being able to make fun of him until he's thrown out of the NFL. But anywho, um, Paul, before we get to our
fun of Wannstedt, so I can make fun of Gase as long as I want.
I gotta tell you, one of my deepest, darkest secrets as a Dolphins fan is I thought Wannstedt was a better coach than people gave him credit for. But
well, I set the bar pretty low on that, so there's a chance that he is a better coach. But anybody that systematically went through and ruined Dan Marino's teams, kicked him out of the NFL, ruined his team, then went down and ruined his goddamn college team. I'm pretty sure when he disappeared for a while, he went down and just destroyed his high school team to the point that they canceled the football program.
I was, gosh, I'm just digging myself holes here today. I was fine with Marino being gone at the end of '99.
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Because he could barely walk. I mean, Marino's the reason I became a Dolphins fan. But my bigger problem is you go with Damon Heward and Jay Fiedler for the next 3 years, and you just don't see a problem with it. You pass up Drew Brees and draft Jamar Fletcher. That was my problem.
So, ladies and gentlemen that are watching right now, I just want to differentiate here. I am Paul. That's Cat. That's Cat saying that. Cat.
Right.
Just
1999 Dan Marino sucked. Okay.
I'm
deal
gonna
with
slide out a frame here while you finish that thought.
Deal with it here. No, Dan Marino is the reason I became a Dolphins fan, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. But 1999 Dan Marino could barely walk. That's just reality. Paul, before we get to the bold prediction and prediction for the game, anything else jump out from the chat other than probably terrible things said about me, but that's okay.
Oh, I can't wait to see those. Now, I mean, it's there's a few people that think this is going to be a tougher matchup, and it's possible. I mean, don't ever discount the fact that the Jets aren't really playing for anything, and while the front office may want Trevor Lawrence in that number 1 overall pick, the guys on the field, they don't want to lose ever.
Yeah. And it kind of does remind me of the Dolphins last year when, okay, they start off 0-7, and then it's like, you know what? The heck with it. We got nothing to play for but our jobs. Let's go out there. Let's play carefree. If we keep losing, we keep losing. We're doing that anyway. Mm-hmm. That's the thing that the Jets have going for them. And that's kind of what Darnold brings here too, is that he's been on the bench for 8 weeks, and just about the time you're ready to give up on Sam Darnold over the last 2 years, he did well late in the year. I still think he's a couple of weeks away from that, though. So my bold prediction here, number 1, is going to be that the Cowboys lost a guy named Marcus Paul, their strength and conditioning coach here this past week at 54. He was a friend of Byron Jones. Byron Jones doesn't intercept a lot of passes. I'm going to say he gets a pick this week. It'll only be a second pick in 3 years, but my prediction is that he comes down there with an interception. Paul, what is your bold prediction here for this one?
I'm going to go 4 turnovers by the defense. And I'm going with again, two by Bobby McCain. I don't think Byron gets on the board, and I love Byron. I've been watching him since his freshman year at UConn. But I think 4 interceptions in this one. And I'm not going to make a bold prediction on this front, but I do want to say it. I think the offense starts to get it right this week and goes back to what they did a few weeks ago where they were doing interesting motions with Jakeem, and it worked. I think that made the offense start to click against San Diego, and they got away from it last week and just played like ass. So I think they get it right this week.
Got it. Yeah, and one other matchup we didn't talk about too is Jamison Crowder. Gase loves to jam the ball in the slot to this guy until he dies. He's going to go up against Nick Needham, and I think Nick Needham's been playing fantastic football lately, and that's going to make a big difference in this game. And Nick Needham wasn't playing great when the Dolphins matched up with the Jets last time, and he pounded that's when he started to come on more. But he's really turning into a good player. I didn't think he would be this year. I think I thought he would have been a write-off, but I'm glad that we have him. My prediction of the game, I agree with our chat room there. I think it's going to be a little bit of a closer game this week than a lot of people think, because the Dolphins might be playing a little bit tense right now, and the Jets have nothing to lose. But I still see the Dolphins coming away with this game here. I'm going to give the exact same score they lost by last week to the Broncos. I'm going to go 20-13 Dolphins. The difference is being that I don't see the Jets having the running back talent to get out to the perimeter with a Frank Gore, and that killed the Dolphins last week, opened up the entire field. They don't have enough on offense to stay unpredictable, which also hurt last week against the Dolphins. And the Jets don't have the secondary talent that we haven't even talked about. Last week the Broncos had Justin Simmons at free safety, was all over the field. They had cornerbacks AJ Boye and Bryce Callahan. The Jets secondary this week is starting 3 rookies. Cornerbacks Bryce Hall and Lamar Jackson, safety Ashton Davis, who I actually loved coming out, but still a rookie, and Marcus May. And Marcus May has, of the players they have on their team at secondary, they have 7 interceptions this year. 6 of them are by players who are on IR or off the team. Marcus May's butt interception against the Dolphins was the only one this year. That was the only interception by a player who is going to play for the Jets this weekend. So, yeah, I've rambled on a lot, but overall, I'm going to say in this mess, Dolphins win 20-13, and they go to 7-4 on the season.
Yeah, and before I give my prediction here, I just want to say, make sure you check out the Dolphins NYC guys. They're doing a virtual MetLife takeover this weekend.
Yes.
You can watch Zoom with those guys. They have a huge charity auction with some really cool prizes. It looks like a used helmet signed by Brian Flores that they're raffling off. There's some autographed Mercury Morris stuff. We did an interview with Igor from Dolphins NYC earlier this week. They're doing some great things there, and it all goes to charity. So make sure you check that out. And while I'm at it, make sure you click like, make sure you subscribe to us, turn your notifications on. Thank you to everybody that's been responding and listening. For me, I agree it's going to be closer than some people think, and I'm close to you on the score, Cat. But again, I think given like what you were just saying about the secondary, given the impact to their offensive line, I think it's closer than some people think, but I'm still going to go 27-13 on this one. Their kicker's even out, for God's sake. I mean, it's God.
Sam Ficken is not going to play in this one here. And at cornerback, they had Pierre Desir. They cut. He signed with the Ravens. Brian Poole, I thought, as a player on their defense, I really liked as a nickelback. He's on injured reserve. He can be a problem on defense.
Actually,
you don't see it this week.
34-7. You talked me into it.
Lamar Jackson and Bryce Hall at cornerback were 2 players projected really day 2 picks, at this time last year for the draft. But, these are 4'6", 4'6'5" cornerbacks. These are not fast guys. And I see Jakeem Grant on the perimeter getting loose a little bit too. So it might be worse than 20-13, but all I care about now, I'm not worried about style points at this time of the year. All I care about is wins. Yep. So we got to get it this week, got to get it the next week against the Bengals. And that's going to do it for our breakdown of the Dolphins-Jets matchup for this upcoming weekend for Week 12. Be sure to follow Paul and I, like he said, on Facebook, Twitter, Spreaker, iTunes, YouTube, iHeartRadio. I'm Brian Cat NFL. Paul is Fanatic_pick on Twitter. And if it's not on the right side and it's not on the left side, it is on the FinSide.